welcome to Speaking and Speech with Kiki. This is lesson 8. Last class we talked about filler words, how to figure out what your filler words are and how to try and change that because it is a habit and it is changeable. Completely up to you. If you're not doing professional presentations, that's fine. If you own your own company and you're giving a presentation and you have filler words, you don't care, that's fine. It's up to you. I personally think that if you're on a stage, it's very easy to use filler words when you should be using pauses. Just let your mind think for a minute. They seem longer than they are, and they make you seem like you are preparing, but at the same time, filler words, they don't make you sound smart. They don't make you sound stupid, but they don't make you sound smart. Better to stop and restart your whole sentence than to mutter, better than that. Today we're going to talk about rhetorical questions. You may decide by the end that you do not want to use rhetorical questions because they sound so difficult. That's fine. You should know what they are, learn how to use the tool, and then it's in your toolbox. You can later choose when to use it if you want to use it. When you're giving a presentation to other professionals, even though they know that you are not a native speaker, you can't help but expect the same level as from a presentation than you would from a native speaker. That's why I don't want you to just say, this is too hard, I'm not going to do it. I want you to say, I'm going to practice it, and then if I want to use it, I can use it. If you are talking to natives and you've given them already one presentation and it didn't go that great, then on the second presentation, you should pull out the rhetorical question. Have it in the toolbox. First, let's answer the question, what is a rhetorical question? A rhetorical question was a question that no answer is actually expected. When people say, hi, how are you? And you say, oh, well, I'm not doing it. And you keep talking and they're not listening and you say, they're so rude. They asked me how I was. And when Americans ask you, how are you? It's the same as their way of saying, good morning, basically. One kind of rhetorical question that you may see on a day-to-day basis, but we're talking about rhetorical questions in presentations. About it. Have you ever heard a persuasive advertisement where they said, are you suffering from lack of sleep, bad digestion, and insomnia? Well, this is the medicine for you. The way that the advertisement goes, it's not about a question and you're supposed to answer. You're supposed to imagine the list of symptoms, you're supposed to check which ones you have, and then say, oh, I've got to try this new product. In the movies, you'll see.
Do you see any cameras here? No. We have 144 cameras in place here. And it took us just a day to do it, and they're virtually invisible. They come in every color, so camouflaging is essential. This is my favorite. Oh! Nice catch. Sign her up. So, now, the entire world is watching. I agree with the Hague, with the human rights activists all over the world. There needs to be accountability. Tyrants and terrorists can no longer hide. We will see them. We will hear them. We will hear and see everything. If it happens, we'll know. We're calling it sea change. Sea change. Oh, and we'll know the good things too. Aww. We will see it all. Because knowing is good. But knowing everything is better.
Think about it. It's actually really effective. So what's the reason for using the question form? The reason to use a question, especially a rhetorical question, is because telling people the information isn't always the most effective way to get people to listen to you. We said why. Why use a rhetorical question? Because you can't just tell your audience all the information all the time, right? You engage the audience in active listening when you're asking them a question, even one that they don't need to answer, right? The things that rhetorical questions can do is they can be very emotional. We, as presenters, may not feel emotional about the situation, but rhetorical questions can actually be emotional. They can stir emotion. How? Let me give you an example. Instead of saying, the government has never done anything for us. That's a statement, and I may be alone in that feeling. But what if I said, what has the government ever done for you? And then when you have to think about it, you say, well, maybe they haven't done everything that they should have done. The question places the listener in a position where now they're ready to listen to something and they feel like the information they're about to receive is more important. 10 of our children have died in gun-related crimes. How many will it take before we act? So you're saying, bad things have happened? How much more has to happen before we decide to do something? It's starting to get more effective, right? You're starting to see that there is a reason to use rhetorical questions. You can't think of a rhetorical question as a question that stands alone. The rhetorical question changes the way the listener hears the information because they are now trying to answer the question for themselves, but then it sets you up to be able to give the audience an answer. I'll give you an example. Why is it important to exercise our right to vote? Voting is a duty of active citizenship. I gave you the question, why should we vote? And gave you the answer as well. Rhetorical questions can be emotional, right? I set up something that's a challenge to the listener. Rhetorical questions can be a setup for the answer. I want to give you a specific answer, so I give you a rhetorical question. And rhetorical questions activate the listener so they're paying more attention because they're thinking to themselves, oh, well, what is the answer to that? That gets them thinking about your message more clearly. Rhetorical questions are difficult because you have to think about the way you're setting them up. Instead of a statement, you have to change it to a kind of question. Instead of saying, the government hasn't done anything for us, you're changing it to a question, what has the government done for us? Another reason to use rhetorical questions is because it's a good way to show that you are thinking about what the audience might want to ask you. Think about what their questions might be. You ask a rhetorical question and then you answer the question in your presentation. To answer questions that other people might have, you do it as part of your presentation, makes it more effective. I'm going to give you some examples in the homework for how people used rhetorical questions, and I will set up the speaking part so that it has a few situations in which you can make a presentation to record and send a link in the comment section. But for now, just know that rhetorical questions are a tool that you should be using in your presentations when you want to engage the audience, when you want to be persuasive. They're much more effective than statements. When you want to make people feel something, it's a little manipulative, but we need that emotion because things that matter to us don't matter to other people until we can change their minds. And it can be used to emphasize what you're saying. The point is, you have to try. And when you try, you will make mistakes, but then you have to keep going. Those are my 3 rules. Oh, perfect. All right. Guys, have a great week, and I'll see you next time.